Are you looking for a transformational space to reconnect with your hormones, your cycles, and your power? Then join me as I launch the Wise Women Rising program, a 4-week experience designed to guide you back to your body's wisdom and ignite your sense of self. I'm Dr. Tiffany Keenan, and I want to welcome you to this special conversation. It's part of our Wise Women Rising series, where I'm sitting down speaking with inspiring women who are going to share their lived wisdom, their insights, and their personal growth. Each story is a reflection of what is possible when we embrace change, we honor our experience, and we rise together. So today, I'm honored to be joined by Dr. Mylène Juneau, whose voice and story will remind us that we're not alone and that every woman carries power within her. Mylène, thank you so much for being here. How are you feeling as we begin?
Thank you so much for having me. I'm feeling really good. Really excited to do this with you.
I'm so excited. So, Mylène, please tell us a little bit about yourself and then share some of your wisdom with us.
Absolutely. I'm a physician. I started my career doing mostly ER and critical care, and then I got certified as a lifestyle physician. So I do a group called Clip On in Parry Sound, Ontario, and I also do some online coaching with Blue Life RX. So we help families that are struggling with autism and ADHD, as well as uh, people, healthcare professionals that are struggling with their own health and feel maybe a little bit awkward about it because when we work in healthcare we always feel like we should fix ourselves. Right? So that's what I do. And so Tiffany asked me to share some wisdom, and we were just having a conversation about how, there's always so many things that we want to say. So I had to pick three, which is always hard to do. So, the first thing that I would like to share, and again, based on my own experience, but also the people that I help, would be um, don't be too quick to take someone else's advice if they're not walking the path that you're walking, right? A lot of people are going to have a lot of opinions about what you're doing, what you're learning, your life choices, your career choices. And if they're not where you want to be, or at least on their way there, then sometimes it can be a little bit misleading. And if you take their advice, maybe you'll end up where they are, and maybe that's not where you want to go. And a lot of people's advice come from their limiting beliefs and their fears, and it doesn't mean that they apply to you. Maybe it was something that was helpful for them in their situation, and maybe it just doesn't apply to you at all. So I guess that would be the first thing, would be, like when you're looking for advice, maybe just think twice about whose advice you're gonna take. Um, and I'm sure this is going to resonate with a lot of people that are going to be in your program. And the second thing, I wrote, say thank you more than you say sorry. So we're Canadians and we say sorry a lot. But finding joy, right? Like, and even some people say ask for forgiveness instead of asking for permission. But something
That's
about,
me.
yeah, living maybe a little bit more unapologetically, and being grateful, and uh yeah, sometimes we're like, oh, I we're into something and we need to cancel plans or engagements or anything, and we feel so bad, and maybe we don't even want to send the email, and we're like, I'll just do it and get it over with, even though it doesn't align, or it's really not the time, or you woke up really sick that day and you're like, I'll just power through and do it anyway. And maybe thank you for your understanding maybe works better than I'm so sorry, I feel like I suck right now. um so, and then it's more empowering for you, and you're coming from a completely different place, right? And just to remember that people mirror our energy a lot. And a lot of people's response to you will actually have more to do with how you framed it and said it than what you actually said. And so just to remember that you're actually uh, you're more in control than you might think, actually. And then the third thing that I would like to, it's hard for a French speaker to say, right? Third thing, is more along the lines of having compassion, right? Being your own best friend. If you don't have your own back, then who does? And a lot of the time I'll have people sit in the office and they're just about, I don't know what they want to share, something they ate or whatever, and they start framing it like, oh, you're not gonna like what I'm about to say, you know? And I'm like, are you hiding corpses in the walls of your basement again? We talked about that. That's not okay. But we joke about that. But you don't need to have this big confession about eating an egg for breakfast or and I think a lot of that, we're so quick to judge ourselves. And there was a quote that I really liked that said, "We don't offer ourselves compassion in spite of difficulties and imperfections, but because of them." Right? Don't wait to be your perfect ideal self to be kind to yourself. Like you don't wait until you ran your perfect race before you give yourself that medal and you pat yourself in the back. And there's a book that I really enjoyed, and I think it's called Do Hard Things, actually. And when you pick up a book like that, you might think that, it's going to be a big, I don't know, workout plan or like a big mental toughness drill. And at the end of the day, it's really how being kind to yourself in the long run is going to get you further. And how, like if whether you're an athlete or an executive, it's not it's not about indulging all the time or anything like that. And again, like your best friend, or if you were parenting a child, like you wouldn't want them to eat chocolate day in and day out. But if they failed a test and they were feeling terrible about it, your first reaction probably wouldn't be like, yeah, you suck. Like that's not what you would say. And you wouldn't say that because it's actually not helpful, and it's not going to make them ace the next test. And so I think a lot of people that have joined our program initially felt overwhelmed because there's 6 pillars of lifestyle medicine and there's a lot to learn and implement, and depending on how they were living their lives before, they might feel like there's a lot they want to change once they know different. uh, and uh, and it takes a lot of self-compassion to accept that there's a lot of things in your life that you want to change, that it's difficult to change, that sometimes it's painful, and that you still have to take it one day at a time, one thing at a time, and to love yourself again, not despite your imperfections, but because of them.
Oh, this is beautiful, Mylène. And I think, where we're coming from is space of lifestyle medicine. And, we're both physicians, right? And so people might be thinking for us to give them all of these like specific things they need to do. But we've learned, right, through experience, through our time in the emergency room, right, that the greatest thing that we can do is to reach out, to be there with someone, to offer compassion. But when you bring up the fact that we bring that compassion back to ourselves, because, you've probably seen this as you work with men and women, it seems women have a lot harder job of reflecting on this own like self-compassion, like, saying yes to me, like a no to someone is a yes to me.
Yeah.
Um, have you noticed that in your groups? Do you think that overall the women are harder on themselves than the men?
I don't know if I would say this. I think that sometimes they do and sometimes they don't. I think there's a lot of in society, it's true, like we have roles, right? Like and even if we don't want to, we do, and we try to embody them. But I think that we're taught to be tough in different capacities, right? There are times for both men and women where you can be emotional and when you cannot, and which emotion you can show and which ones you can't, right? And so women can cry in some circumstances, men can be angry in some circumstances, and there are times when women are supposed to just, stay quiet and push through because it's the job of a woman, so you're not supposed to complain about your job because it's your job. But if something is a man's job, then you're allowed to cry because you're a woman and you're doing a man's job, so now you're allowed to cry, right? And so the same thing, right? If you're a man and all of a sudden you're doing a woman's job, now you're allowed to cry. But if you're a man doing a man's job, now you have to stay silent and push through because that's your work. And I think that in both cases, it's interesting. There's Yeah, it's really interesting how we're all really hard on ourselves at the end of the day, and very non-accepting of, we're all like a little rigid in some ways, and we're our own worst critic, but at the same time we're also really ill-equipped to see our own rigidity and our own flaws, right? Like we don't see it in ourselves. So I think, yeah, I think it's really important to just have mental flexibility is how I would describe it. And
And
yeah.
And that's great. And I'm kind of glad you brought up we talked about men, because this is often it that we kind of, sometimes we go into the world, it's all us and all them. But at the heart, we have the same issues that we
Mhm.
all want to embrace our authentic selves, right? Who we really are, right? Taking the blinders off, taking off what society thinks of us as a mom, a dad, or a husband, a wife. But deep within, we're all human beings. We've got some type of soul. We've got a purpose that we have here, but trying to find that purpose. And I think with women, the one thing I see as they go through this whole menopause transition, and I was the same, is we start to remember who more of we really
Mhm.
are. And many women are starting to become more accepting, like, this is who I am, and this is okay how I feel, right?
Yeah.
But it's empowering when we
Agree.
start to embrace it, because we're not always then pushing away. We're actually starting to say, okay, this is me. This is how I am, right? And to see all of me. That's the exciting part. And I love the line that you said too about talking about to say thank you more than we say sorry. And I think for so many of us and finding our joy, when we begin to focus on those little bits of gratitude, that it can help to shift us so much in our life,
So true.
right? We all have those choices if we want to complain. Like they say, do you want to complain or explain, right? But but if sometimes we just need to be quiet to say the thank you. And that commercial that was out with finding, I think it came up again with Donald Trump, because it was like out 20 years ago about I am Joe and I am Canadian. Do you remember that beer commercial? I think
Oh, yes.
and they talk about that, how we apologize in Canada, that we say sorry so much. And I think it came out with Trump, because it was to say that, we have to stand up and be proud that we're Canadian, right? But this concept of always being sorry. But if we say, I'm saying thank you, or I'm unable to attend that event because I'm doing something for me, that's showing of kindness toward myself.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, this is it. This is the body we get to live in, right?
Yeah.
So, any final closing things that you'd like to say before we sign off?
I think, I mean, they say fitness is a journey, not a destination. I think health is a journey, not a destination. I think there's no perfect way to do it. There's your way to do it, and I think that that's the most important thing. And I think a lot of people find the information that they get online or from different expert conflicting, and sometimes it is conflicting, but sometimes it's just that it doesn't apply to everyone the same way. And just because something is true for someone, or maybe it's true for you in some circumstance, doesn't mean that it's true all the time. And again, I think mental flexibility, being able to hold more than one truth, being able to accept that you can be more than one thing, that something can be true for you sometimes and not for others, or yeah, I think mental flexibility is really important in this journey, because uh, otherwise it's going to be so much harder. So again, be flexible, find joy, and listen to Dr. Tiffany Keenan. She's a wise woman rising, or who has risen.
Well, thank you so much, Mylène, for sharing with us. You know, we have this collective wisdom, and I think together, as we women rise, we're going to share with more of our sisters that are there in the field. And really, at the end, is we just want people to live healthy lives and to enjoy every moment that they have to spend. So thanks for joining in. And for those that are watching, join the Wise Women Rising program, and you'll learn lots of knowledge so that we can rise up together. Thank you, Mylène.
Thank you.